After my wife died, I worked night shifts at the hospital to cope with the grief. For 3 years, I came home to an empty house, barely spoke to my son, and existed in a fog of loneliness. Then I started taking ride shares with the same driver, Samuel. He brought me coffee. We talked about our kids, our losses, our regrets. He became the closest thing I had to a friend. One night, Samuel didn't take me home. He pulled over, hands shaking, and said, "Don't go home tonight. Tomorrow I'll show you the proof." What he showed me the next day left me speechless. I'm grateful you're here listening to this. Before I tell you what happened that night, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is where you are right now. Sometimes the loneliest moments happen when the world is asleep. I know that feeling all too well. They say you never really know someone until crisis reveals their nature. I thought I knew my son. 30 years of watching him grow, stumble, find his way. But I'd learned the hardest truth a father can face. Sometimes the stranger in your life wears the face you helped bring into this world. It started as most life-changing things do, with something small. A bus schedule. September in Minneapolis brings that particular kind of cold that sneaks up on you. Not the brutal winter freeze, yet just enough chill to remind you it's coming. I finished my shift at Hennepin Healthcare at 11 p.m., same as I had every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night for the past 23 years. Night shift pharmacist. Steady work keeps the mind occupied, and God knows I needed that these past 3 years. The hospital parking lot was nearly empty at that hour, just a few cars belonging to other night shifters. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in that institutional yellow. I'd walked this path so many times I could do it blind, through the staff entrance, past security, out the back doors to the bus stop on South 8th Street. Except the bus wasn't there. I checked my phone, 11:07. The last bus used to leave at 11:15. Budget cuts, the notice said. Last bus now departed at 10:30 p.m., a full half hour before my shift ended. I stood there in the cold briefcase in hand, 58 years old, and feeling every one of them. My phone buzzed that Rideshare app my daughter had installed last Christmas, back when she still called regularly. "Dad, you need to get with the times," she'd said. I opened it. Simple interface. A silver Toyota 4 minutes away. Driver named Samuel Rivera. 5 stars. I requested the ride before I could overthink it. The car pulled up 3 minutes later. I hesitated before opening the door. Old habits. Stranger danger, but the app showed his photo, his license plate, his rating. This was how the world worked now. Trusting strangers based on algorithms and little gold stars. Lawrence. The driver's voice was kind. That was my first impression of Samuel Rivera. Kind. Yes. I climbed into the back seat, set my briefcase beside me. 2847 Lindale Avenue South, please. Long shift, he asked, pulling away from the curb. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I replied, watching the familiar streets slide past the window. You been driving long? About 3 years now. Lost my job when the mill closed. This keeps me afloat. I nodded, recognizing something in his voice. The same weariness I heard in my own. We talked a bit more weather, traffic, the usual small talk strangers make. He didn't pry, which I appreciated. 15 minutes exactly door to door. Have a good night, he said when we pulled up to my house. You too, thanks. I watched his taillights disappear down Lindale, then turned to face my house. The porch light was on. I always left it on habit from when Margaret was alive. The rest of the windows were dark. Inside it would be quiet. It always was. My son and I hadn't spoken in months, not since the funeral. I unlocked the door and stepped into the silence. I didn't know those 15-minute rides would change everything I thought I knew about the people I trusted. Over the next 2 months, Samuel became the closest thing I had to a friend. It wasn't intentional. Not on my part, anyway. But 3 times a week, when I opened that rideshare app, Samuel's silver Toyota was always the car that accepted. By the 3rd week of September, I realized it wasn't coincidence. He was waiting, positioning himself near the hospital around 11:15, making sure he'd be the one to pick me up. We fell into a rhythm. I'd slide into the back seat exhausted from 8 hours of counting pills and checking prescriptions, and Samuel would already have my address plugged in. Those 15-minute rides became the only conversations I had that weren't about milligrams and drug interactions. My wife used to say I worked too much. I told him one October night, watching leaves turn gold under the streetlights. She was right. I thought I was providing, being responsible. Turned out I was just absent. Your son, Samuel said quietly. You mentioned he's not speaking to you. Logan blamed me for not being there when his mother was dying. Said I cared more about my patients than my own family. I paused. Maybe he was right. Samuel nodded slowly. My daughter hasn't spoken to me in 3 years. Her boyfriend hurt her. Bad. And I didn't see it coming because I was too wrapped up in my own problems. His hands tightened on the wheel. When my wife left, she said I'd failed the people who needed me most. We drove in silence, two men carrying the same weight. I pay attention now, Samuel said finally. To everything. Everyone. I won't fail again. By November, I started bringing him coffee. Just a simple cup from the hospital cafeteria, still hot when his car pulled up. The first time I handed it through the window, he stared at it like I'd given him something precious. You didn't have to do this, he said. I know. I climbed in. But my wife used to say small kindnesses cost nothing and mean everything. Figured you could use it more than I could. After that, the coffee became ritual. Sometimes I'd bring medication samples home too. Insulin pens, blood thinner vials I needed to review for the hospital formulary. They'd sit in my work bag by the door, just another piece of the routine that had become my life. Mid-November, my supervisor, Linda Torres, called me into her office. Lawrence, we're doing a comprehensive audit, she said. Medication discrepancies. Prescriptions marked as dispensed in the system, but the physical inventory doesn't match up. How significant? Significant enough that Medicare's asking questions? She slid a folder across her desk. We need you on the review team. Your eye for detail, we need to figure out where these medications went. I took the folder home that night, started reviewing the records, saw the patterns immediately, prescriptions for deceased patients' drugs that supposedly left our pharmacy on certain days. It was methodical, clever. I should have paid more attention to the prescriptions I was reviewing, the patterns, the timing, but I was too grateful for Samuel's friendship, too relieved that life felt lighter than it had in 3 years, to notice the danger that had been hiding in plain sight all along. I didn't know what Samuel was discovering in early December. I was too busy reviewing audit files to notice my friend was tracking a threat I couldn't see. Samuel told me later how it started. Early December, he picked up a drunk passenger around 10:30 p.m. man in his late 20s, early 30s, reeking of whiskey. The guy was on his phone, the entire ride, voice rising with alcohol-fueled anger. Samuel almost tuned it out. You drive drunk people, you learn not to listen. But then he heard an address, Lyndale Avenue, and something about an audit, an old man getting too close. His old security training kicked in. He started a log, time, pickup, location, destination. The address was close to mine, too close. Over the next 2 weeks, Samuel picked up the same passenger 5 or 6 times across different Minneapolis bars, always drunk, always on his phone. And Samuel started recording. It's legal, buried in the Rideshare terms of service. The recordings told a story. The pharmacist's father, the man slurred one night. If he connects it to my sales territory. A woman's voice, cold and sharp. Handle it before he figures it out. Another night, I need the old man gone. House is worth $400,000 plus the life insurance. December 18th, 1:30 in the morning. Samuel's night off. Couldn't sleep. He drove past my street. A car was parked 2 houses down from mine, same make as his drunk passengers. Lights off, engine running. Someone inside watching my windows. December 19th, 10:45 p.m. Samuel was about to log on for my 11 o'clock pickup, but first drove past Lyndale Avenue one more time. What he saw stopped his heart. A man at my front door, the drunk passenger, trying my handle. Locked, thank God. He peered in my windows, stood there a full minute, then returned to his car and sat watching. Samuel sat 3 blocks away, hands shaking, making the connection. The passenger who mentioned Lyndale, who talked about a pharmacist's father, who wanted the old man gone. Oh my God, he whispered. That's Lawrence's son, Logan? 15 minutes later, he picked me up at the hospital. Evening, Samuel, I said, climbing in. His hands were trembling on the wheel. Everything okay. Instead of turning toward Lyndale, he drove the opposite direction. Samuel, where are we going? Somewhere we can talk. His voice was tight. Please, Lawrence, I need you to listen very carefully. He pulled into an empty Target parking lot on Nicollet Avenue, turned to face me. In the harsh security lights, I saw fear in his eyes. Your son, Logan, do you know where he is right now? Logan, I blinked blindsided. I haven't spoken to him in months. Why? Because 45 minutes ago, I watched him try to break into your house. The world tilted. He played the recordings, one after another. My son's voice slurred, but unmistakable, talking about me like I was an obstacle, a problem to eliminate. I need the old man gone. I sat in that cold parking lot and listened to my son plot my death, and I knew what I had to do. 20 minutes later, Samuel and I walked into the Minneapolis Police Department, 1st Precinct. Detective Rebecca Ortiz had sharp eyes that missed nothing. Officer Brandon Cole sat beside her notepad ready. We took seats in a small interview room. Mr. Rivera says someone's been threatening you, Detective Ortiz began. Your son. Logan Barrett. My throat was dry. Yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Barrett. Samuel handed over his phone. The detective listened to the recordings. I watched her face change as Logan's voice filled the room. Direct threats. Your address. Inheritance. She looked up. He mentioned an audit. I nodded. I'm a night pharmacist at Hennepin Healthcare. We've been auditing medication discrepancies. Prescriptions marked dispensed, but inventory doesn't match. Fraud, I explained. Electronic. Fake prescriptions for deceased patients. Bill Medicare, pocket the reimbursement. The drugs never actually leave, only exist on paper. $150,000 over 3 years. Her eyes sharpened. Your son works in pharmaceuticals. Sales rep. Has access codes to our system. The fraudulent entries, all on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. I work Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. He knew when I wouldn't be there. Officer Cole pulled up records. Life insurance, Mr. Barrett. $250,000. Logan's the sole beneficiary. Silence. He wasn't just covering fraud, Detective Ortiz said. He was planning to collect. But we have threats on tape, attempted entry, nothing concrete yet. Defense could argue it's talk. What are you saying? If we catch him inside your home with intent to harm, the case is ironclad. Are you willing to help us? My hands shook. How? Let him break in. We'll be ready. The plan: I'd go home wired. Police in an unmarked van 2 houses down. Tomorrow night I'd leave for work at 10:30, my usual time. Logan's pattern was breaking in when I was gone. But I wouldn't actually leave. I'd park with police and wait. When he entered, I'd go in too. Pretend I came home early. Talk to him. Keep him there while police listened. First sign of danger, they'd move. Just conversation, Ortiz emphasized. Can you do that? Could I? This was Logan, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike. But that was before he decided I was worth more dead than alive. He's my son, I said quietly. But he's trying to kill me. Samuel squeezed my shoulder. What do you need me to do? December 20th. I left my house at 10:30 p.m. wearing a wire. Police waited 2 houses down. And I sat in that surveillance vehicle watching my own front door through a camera, praying my son wouldn't come. I sat in the surveillance van 2 houses down from my own home, watching the dark windows through a grainy monitor. Detective Ortiz sat beside me, headphones on, monitoring the wire they'd taped to my chest. Officer Cole waited outside with 3 other officers positioned in the shadows. He'll come, Samuel had said earlier that evening, his hand on my shoulder. Logan's been watching the house for days. He knows your schedule. At 11:47 movement, Logan's car pulled up 3 houses down, headlights off. My son, my own son, climbed out, checking the street. He wore dark clothes, gloves. He moved like a stranger, like someone I'd never known. That's him? I whispered. My voice sounded hollow even to myself. He walked up my driveway, straight to the back door. I watched him work the lock, a lock I'd taught him to pick when he was 12, when he'd locked himself out after school. It took him 40 seconds. The door opened. He slipped inside. Wait, Ortiz said, her hand on my arm. Give him time to commit. We need him with the evidence. 3 minutes passed like hours. Then her radio crackled. He's in the living room, searching for something. That's your work bag, Ortiz said, where you keep the medication samples. 4 minutes, 5. He's got the bag. He's Jesus. He's got bottles out. He's using his phone for something. The dosage calculator, just like the one they'd found in his apartment. Now, Ortiz said, go. I walked to my own front door, used my own key, stepped into my own home. Logan was in the living room, my work bag open on the coffee table. 3 bottles laid out in a neat row, insulin, warfarin, lorazepam. His phone glowed in his hand, a dosage calculator app open on the screen. He looked up when he heard me. For one frozen second, we stared at each other. Then his face twisted. What are you doing here? You're supposed to be at work. What are you doing here, Logan? My voice shook. Breaking into my house, going through my medication samples. He stepped back, phone still in hand, but he didn't put down the bottles. This isn't what it looks like. Then what is it? Because it looks like you're calculating how much medication it would take to kill me. You don't understand. His voice rose desperate now. Oh, I never wanted. I didn't have a choice. The debt's Brittany. Everything was. There's always a choice. You chose to steal from dying patients. You chose to forge my signature. And now, my voice broke, now you chose to murder me. You were never there. He shouted it, years of resentment erupting. After Mom died, you were never there. Always working, always at that goddamn hospital, caring more about strangers than your own son. I worked night shifts to keep this house, to pay your college loans, to give you everything. You gave me nothing. He moved toward me, and I saw it then, not my son, but a stranger. And now you're going to take everything away. That audit, your signature on those records, you're going to figure it out. You're going to report me, and I'll lose everything. So you'd rather I was dead? His silence was the answer. The police know everything, I said quietly. The fraud, the fake prescriptions, the $153,000. They know about the life insurance, the house, all of it. And they're hearing every word you're saying right now. Logan's face went white. His eyes darted to the door. Logan Barrett hands where I can see them. Officer Cole burst through the front door, 3 officers behind him. You're under arrest for attempted murder, breaking, and entering and healthcare fraud. Logan ran for the back door. Officer Cole tackled him before he made it 5 steps. The 3 bottles flew from Logan's hands, shattering against the hardwood floor. Insulin and blood thinner mixed into a dark pool. They cuffed him, read him his rights. As they dragged him toward the door, Logan looked back at me one last time. Dad, please, I'm your son. I met his eyes. Everything I'd ever felt for him, the love, the pride, the hopes, it all crystallized into one terrible truth. I don't have a son, I said, and I turned away. In the week that followed, the full scope of Logan's crimes came to light, and it was worse than I'd imagined. The police searched his apartment on Como Avenue on December 21st. Detective Ortiz called me that evening, her voice carefully neutral. Mr. Barrett, you should sit down for this. I was already sitting. I'd been sitting for days. She walked me through it methodically, like reading a grocery list, a laptop with spreadsheets tracking $153,000 in fraudulent insurance billings over 3 years, 89 fake prescriptions, a list of deceased patients whose names Logan had used, digital signature files, including mine, forged to authorize medications that never existed, handwritten notes in the margins, life insurance $250K, house appraisal $400K, and a spiral notebook with dosage calculations. Male, 58 years old, 180 pounds. Lethal insulin dose, warfarin bleeding time, lorazepam respiratory depression. My son had done his homework. He'd studied how to kill me the way other men study golf swings. There's more, Ortiz said. We brought in Brittany Wade for questioning. I remembered the name from Samuel's recordings. The woman on the phone, the one who'd kept pushing. At first, Brittany denied everything. Then the detective showed her the text messages retrieved from Logan's phone. Get rid of the old man before Christmas. We need that insurance money now. She flipped. Blamed Logan for everything, of course, but she admitted she'd urged him to accelerate the timeline. She'd helped research overdose methods that wouldn't show up on a standard autopsy. Conspiracy to commit murder. She'd be charged as an accomplice. Detective Ortiz explained the fraud scheme to me in careful detail, though I'd already pieced most of it together. Logan had used his access as a pharmaceutical sales representative to enter the hospital's pharmacy system. He created electronic prescriptions for elderly Medicaid patients and people who'd already died, marked the medications as dispensed in the system, but no actual drugs ever left the shelf. Then he submitted billing claims to Medicare and Medicaid, routing the payments into a shell company account. It had started 3 years ago, right after Margaret died. In the last 6 months, it had accelerated more prescriptions, higher amounts. The gambling debts were piling up. Brittany was pressing him, and I had become a threat. Why you? Ortiz asked, though she already knew. I was on the audit team. I would have eventually noticed my own forged signature on prescription records dated for Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, days I never worked. Logan panicked. He needed me gone before I could report him. The murder plot was cruder than the fraud. Insulin to crash my blood sugar, warfarin to cause internal bleeding, lorazepam to suppress my breathing. Mix it with a nightcap of whiskey and it would look like an old man had a tragic accident at home. He'd inherit the house, $400,000, and the life insurance. Pay off the debts. Start fresh with Brittany. Detective Ortiz paused before she continued. We owe Samuel Rivera a debt, she said. His vigilance saved your life. I asked if I could thank him in person. She gave me his number. Samuel picked me up on December 27th to drive me to my attorney's office. I needed to update my will, remove Logan's name from everything. Samuel didn't say much during the drive, but when we stopped at a red light on Hennepin Avenue, he turned to me. "You did the right thing," he said quietly. I wasn't sure I believed him. What kind of father turns his son over to the police? What kind of man chooses justice over blood? "I failed once," Samuel said, his voice raw, "with my daughter. I wasn't there when she needed me. I couldn't fail again." The prosecutors built their case quickly. Federal charges for healthcare fraud, state charges for attempted murder. The evidence was overwhelming. Logan refused a plea deal. He told his attorney I'd been an absent father, that I'd driven him to this. Maybe he believed it. 3 months passed. December bled into January, then February, then March. I returned to work for 2 weeks, then requested a leave of absence. I couldn't concentrate. I kept seeing Logan's face in the pharmacy, his hands holding those 3 vials. Samuel checked on me every week, sometimes just texting, sometimes driving me to the grocery store or the attorney's office. On March 15th, I walked into Hennepin County Courthouse. Logan sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit. He didn't look at me. That was fine. I had nothing left to say to him anyway. The trial lasted 4 days. The verdict took 40 minutes. March, Hennepin County Courthouse. The prosecution presented evidence. Logan stared at the defense table. I sat in the gallery and forced myself to watch. Samuel testified on day 3. The prosecutor asked when he'd first realized I was in danger. Samuel described the drunk passenger, the threats, the recordings. Then his voice cracked. "I have a daughter. We're estranged, my fault. I failed to protect her once." He paused. "I couldn't fail again." They played the recordings. Logan's voice filled the courtroom. "I need that old man gone." The defense called Samuel paranoid, accused him of invading privacy. He didn't waver. "I didn't invade anyone's privacy. I saved a life." Then I took the stand, the hardest moment of the trial. "Mr. Barrett, can you identify the defendant?" My voice came out strangled. "That's my son, Logan Barrett." "Tell the jury about your relationship." I looked at Logan. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "I loved him. I raised him alone after his mother died. I worked night shifts to keep the house, to pay the bills. I thought I was doing the right thing." I stopped, forced myself to continue. "I was wrong about a lot of things, but I never stopped loving him." "And what was he planning to do to you?" "He was going to poison me, make it look natural, to inherit my house and life insurance, and to cover up the fact that he'd been stealing from dying patients for 3 years. The prosecutor leaned forward. "Do you believe he would have gone through with it?" I looked at Logan. His jaw was clenched, eyes fixed on the table. "Yes, I heard the calculations. I saw him in my house with those vials. If Samuel hadn't warned me—" My voice broke. "Yes, he would have killed me." The defense argued that Brittany had manipulated Logan, that our estrangement had damaged him psychologically, that he was crying out for attention. The jury didn't buy it. Logan had started the fraud years before Brittany. This wasn't a cry for help. This was greed. The jury deliberated for 40 minutes. Guilty. All counts. Federal fraud charges. State attempted murder charges. Brittany was convicted of conspiracy and fraud. At sentencing 2 weeks later, the judge looked at Logan with cold finality. "Mr. Barrett, you betrayed your profession, your community, and your father. You stole from the vulnerable and conspired to commit murder for financial gain." 15 years for Logan, 12 for Brittany. As the marshals led him away, Logan finally looked at me, not with remorse, with bitterness. His voice cut across the silent courtroom. "This is your fault. You were never there." He was dragged away, still blaming me. Samuel found me in the hallway afterwards, standing alone by the windows. "I thought justice would feel different," I said. My voice sounded hollow even to myself. "What does it feel like?" Samuel asked quietly. I looked at him, this stranger who'd saved my life, who'd done what I should have done for my own son. Like losing my son twice, once to greed, once to prison. I turned back to the window. Outside, people were walking to their cars, going home to their families. He got 15 years in prison. I got sentenced to a lifetime of grief. 6 months after the trial, Samuel showed me a photograph that made him cry. It was a Sunday evening in September. He picked me up for our weekly dinner, a ritual that had grown quietly between us 2 men, rebuilding from different kinds of wreckage. But tonight his hands trembled as he passed me his phone. The photo showed a baby girl maybe 6 months old with dark curls and bright eyes. "Her name is Sophia," Samuel said, his voice breaking. My granddaughter. I looked up. Maria reached out. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. She read about the case, about what I did for you. She called me last month, said seeing me save someone made her realize I'd changed, that I finally knew how to pay attention. He wiped his eyes. We met 2 weeks ago. I held Sophia. Maria hugged me for the first time in 3 years. His voice dropped to a whisper. She's giving me a second chance. I felt genuine happiness for him, even as my own loss sat like a stone in my chest. You deserve that, Samuel. You saved a life. You got your family back. That's how it should be. The Sunday dinners continued after that. Every week, Samuel and I met, sometimes at restaurants, sometimes I cooked at my place. We had an unspoken agreement. We didn't talk about Logan. That door was closed. Instead, we talked about Sophia's milestones, Samuel's slow reconciliation with Maria, my part-time return to work, ordinary things. We were building something like family from the ruins. At one of those dinners, I told him my decision. I'm retiring early. I can't keep working night shifts. Too many memories. Samuel set down his fork. What will you do? I've been thinking about volunteering. There's a crisis support center downtown. They help people who've been betrayed by family abuse, victims fraud, victims people abandoned by the ones they trusted. Samuel studied me across the table. You'd be good at that. You understand that pain. Understanding it won't make it disappear, I said quietly. But maybe I can keep someone else from drowning in it. I started training the following month. The work was hard, listening to stories that echoed my own, but it gave shape to the emptiness Logan had left behind. Helping others won't heal the wound my son left, but maybe, just maybe, it will give this pain a purpose. 1 year after the night my son tried to kill me, I stood in Hennepin Healthcare again, not as an employee, but as a visitor. I was there to speak at a crisis support group meeting. Walking those familiar hallways brought memories flooding back. I passed the pharmacy department and kept walking. Too painful to stop. In the corridor, I saw a young man on a bench outside the pharmacy. His head was in his hands, his shoulders slumped. His badge read, Marcus Williams, PharmD, resident. 26 maybe. I recognized that look, exhaustion, despair, isolation. I went to the cafeteria, bought 2 coffees, and returned. Sat down beside him. Rough shift. I offered him a cup. He looked up surprised. Yeah, thank you. His voice cracked. You have no idea how much I needed this. I think I do. The words spilled out. My family doesn't understand why I work these hours. They think I'm avoiding them. My dad says I care more about strangers than my own family. Pain flashed across my face. I've heard that before. Sorry, I shouldn't burden a stranger. I'm not a stranger. I worked here 23 years. Night shift pharmacist. I paused. And I understand that pain more than you know. I handed him a card for the crisis center. If you need to talk to someone who really gets it, we meet Thursday evenings. He pocketed it carefully. Thank you, really. As I walked away, I thought I couldn't save my son. But maybe I can help save someone else's family before it's too late. I'll never stop grieving, Logan. The trial ended, he's in prison, but the loss is permanent. Some people will tell you blood is thicker than water, that family is everything no matter what. But I learned the hard way that love without accountability just enables evil. And sometimes the people who save your life aren't family at all. They're the rideshare driver who brought you coffee and paid attention when it mattered most. Samuel saved my life because I showed him kindness when he felt worthless. A cup of coffee, 15 minutes of genuine attention, small gestures that cost nothing but meant everything. And now I try to pay that kindness forward. I'm not telling you this story because it has a happy ending. It doesn't. My son is in prison. I live alone. The house feels emptier than it did even after Margaret died. But I'm still here, and I'm trying to make that mean something. So to anyone listening, be kind. Pay attention to the people around you. Not because kindness guarantees a fairy tale ending, it doesn't. Life is messy and painful, and sometimes the people you love most hurt you deepest. But be kind anyway, because someone across from you is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Your attention, your small gesture, might be the thing that saves their life, or it might be the thing that saves yours. That Sunday, Samuel and I had dinner at our usual place. He showed me new photos of Sophia. She was standing now, holding on to furniture, ready to walk any day. Maria was pregnant again. He'd be a grandfather twice over. We talked about ordinary things, his daughter's progress, the volunteers I was training. I told him about Marcus, about giving him the crisis center card. We didn't talk about Logan. That door was closed. I don't visit him in prison. He still writes sometimes, still angry, still blaming me. I don't read them anymore. But from the wreckage of that betrayal, Samuel and I built something like family. We built it from coffee and conversation, from small kindnesses and paying attention. And on the hard nights when the grief feels unbearable, I remember I'm alive because someone cared enough to notice. And maybe, just maybe, that small kindness will ripple outward in ways I'll never see. Sometimes that's enough. I'm telling you this true story, not because I want sympathy, but because I hope you can learn from my mistakes. Don't be like me. Don't wait until it's too late to really see the people in your life. When Margaret died, I threw myself into work. I told myself I was providing for Logan. But what he needed wasn't a paycheck, he needed presence. God gave me signs. The distance growing between us. His sudden wealth, the way he stopped looking me in the eye. But I was too tired, too grief-stricken to pay attention. Here's what I learned from this true story. Love without boundaries isn't love, it's permission. I loved Logan so much that I never held him accountable. I made excuses. I looked away. And in doing so, I helped create the man who stood in my kitchen with poison. Grandpa's stories, like mine, aren't supposed to end this way. You expect wisdom and reconciliation. But sometimes the lesson is this: pay attention before it's too late. God brought Samuel into my life for a reason. A stranger, a rideshare driver, cared enough to notice what I couldn't see. He saved my life with a cup of coffee and 15 minutes of attention. That's all it took. Now I spend my days doing the same for others, praying that God will use my brokenness to prevent someone else's tragedy. This true story is raw and unfinished. My son is in prison. I visit the crisis center every Thursday. Samuel and I have Sunday dinners. We talk about his granddaughter, the people we've helped. We're building something from the ruins, not a replacement, but something real. So here's my advice from these grandpa stories I've lived. Don't wait. If you see someone struggling, say something. If someone shows you kindness, receive it. These grandpa stories about unconditional family loyalty, sometimes they're just excuses for enabling evil. I failed my son, but maybe this story can help you not fail yours. If this story touched you or reminded you of someone who needs to hear it, please leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Hit that share button. You never know whose life might be changed by hearing this message at the right moment. And if you haven't subscribed yet, join our channel for more authentic stories about resilience, redemption, and the power of paying attention. Your comment, your share, your story matters. Together we can help each other see what we're missing before it's too late.